Okay, hey everybody. Hopefully you can see my screen. Let me know if you can. My name is Ryan, and this week on the Inside Real Estate Success Strategy webinar, we're going to be talking about delayed and no registration tactics. I'll explain what that means in a minute, but just start with a little bit of housekeeping. We do record all of these sessions. We put them at insiderealestate.com/webinars, which is a page that looks like this, where we have all these webinars segmented by different YouTube playlists. You can find upcoming registration links and so on. The other thing I'd like to mention is that typically this Wednesday webinar at 2 p.m. East is a little more advanced and kind of falls outside of the beginner loop, so to speak, where if you are just coming into kvCORE, if you're just getting started with us, you're probably going to want to, I'm going to reference the learning portal, and in particular the agent success plan that we recently launched. It's been very popular. People are loving it. And if you're just getting started, that's probably a good place to focus your efforts. And then if you do want to hang out on these sessions, they tend to be a little more advanced. Maybe you just put this information in the back of your brain for use later. You can come back to the replay there. But today, especially, I'm going to be talking about something that is kind of falls along the lines of delayed strategy, even though you will learn a little bit about some kvCORE functionality. This is a little more of an advanced strategy, I should say. Okay, thanks, Mike. So yeah, let's jump on in and I'll explain what I'm talking about here. First, let me give you guys the doc. Sorry, Annalise is usually here to help me share this. So I'm going to do that really quickly and share it in the chat. And if you're watching this replay on YouTube later, typically we'll have the link to the accompanying notes down in the description of the YouTube replay or on Facebook. So you can access it there as well. Okay, so what's the situation? My parents went away on a week's vacation. Just kidding. The situation is that we have a new feature that's been added to kvCORE where you can now turn off or delay registration globally from the kvCORE website settings page. And I think the best way to kind of explain what this is to just go to where the setting is, and I'll show you how to kind of work it. So it's going to be over in the website tab, Web and IDX tab right here on the left side, and then you get in and it says edit settings. I kind of click that real quick, and when you go in and edit settings and scroll down a bit, you're going to see this force lead registration right here with some options. Now by default, it's the normal is that I'm pretty sure it's the registration is prompted right away, or if it's after one click, and this is the way things have been always up till a couple of weeks ago when this feature was released. It was kind of quietly released. I didn't even realize it was there. But now what you have the ability to do is say globally for your whole website, you can say, hey, I don't want registration to pop up until somebody sees 3 properties, right? So on the 3rd property, we'll pop it up, or it might be the 4th. You'll just play with it and you'll figure it out, or 5 or 10 or whatever it might be. So you can delay for up to 10, which is plenty right there. And then the other option you have, which is a heavily requested feature, is that you can click no. Thank you. You click no registration at all. Thank you, Pam. Pam's letting me know that you guys are having trouble accessing the doc. That's another symptom of Annalisa not being here with me today. Give me 1 second. I just need to unlock the doc so that people outside of the Inside Real Estate Company can see it. It'll just take me 1 second, guys. 1 second. I'm doing it in another browser tab here on another monitor. Save. Okay, thank you, Pam. Sorry about that. So you guys should be able to see that doc now. Okay, so continuing on, come back here. So you have the option to delay the number of properties that are viewed before somebody's asked to register, keep it normal, or do none. And what I'd like to talk about a lot today is what to do, why or when you might want to do none. And we're going to get into some kind of wacky techniques and options that you might use in place of the registration we usually have here at kvCORE. So that's the situation. Another thing I'll note is that you have been able to do this for a while with specific squeeze links. So you have a lot of flexibility here where you could leave registration off for your entire site, but if you're going to go run a Google or a Facebook ad or another traffic source, you can then set registration to say 1 or 2 visits by building a squeeze link, which happens underneath the lead engine section of the dashboard. So you can build individual links that have separate registration requirements. Now, why would you do this? If anybody has any ideas about why you would do this that I don't have here, I've heard a number of them over the years. But one of the big ones now has to do with where the state of marketing tech kind of is. And where it is that a lot of results are being had by people who are building custom audiences based on their website visitors and then retargeting those audiences later with ads. So if you were to leave registration totally open and let people kind of surf, browse properties as much as they want, you can then build segmented audiences, say in Facebook, based on the people who are searching the most or who hit certain pages, and then show very targeted ads. So by opening up the gate, letting people come in and do their thing, it helps you kind of use the ad platforms to identify the most motivated people or the people most relevant to what you're trying to do. The other reason you would do this is if you would like to use your own lead capture tools and tactics. One of the most wonderful things about kvCORE is that it's a pretty open system where you can integrate with almost anything via Zapier.com, where you could use a third-party lead generation tool. I'm going to talk about some of these in a minute. Have your own pop-up forms, customize what everything says, and then zap leads into kvCORE using your own tools and tactics. So that's another big reason, and I suspect probably the biggest reason why a lot of people have requested this over the years. Another thing that I should mention alongside of this is that, of course, the competition is open in some cases, right? But we are, it still works to drive traffic to a property search and say, hey, register to see properties, but it's getting more and more tired because as marketing tech changes, as we have Zillow, we have Realtor.com out there, and people know they can go places without trading their info to see properties, it's getting harder to generate that first lead. So if you can make more creative offers and you have more flexibility, it opens up a world of possibilities. And then finally, I know that some people, and I've heard this before, really just use kvCORE as a conversion tool, where people can come and visit properties. Maybe you set up people for alerts, but you're not really so much concerned about generating leads directly through the website. You prefer to have everything off so that you can send a link to a property or a link to a property list to, a cousin, a friend, somebody in your sphere of influence, and not worry about them having to register because you kind of already are getting your leads another way. Maybe you're 100% referral based, you have Zillow working for you and other sources, and you don't care about popping up and asking people to register. So I think I covered, those are kind of the big three reasons why. This has been a debate for years internally here with me and some of the other guys that work here and across the industry, forced registration or not. And I think what we've come to is, hey, let's just let everybody do what they want to do. And that's what you've seen come from the product team here at Inside Real Estate, where you have this kind of toggle here where you can do whatever you want. And then you also have the ability to build squeeze links and drill down on specific pages with specific registration settings. I think it's awesome, but I'm biased. Okay, so now let's talk about these scenarios here a little bit more. Scenario one is the default settings where it's like one view and then a pop-up. Just so you're fully aware, this is going to be the highest lead quantity. We have tested this going all the way back to conversion, going back years. And when you do it the way we have it set by default, you will get the most quantity. So if you think that you can go and set delayed registration to 4 visits on a Google ad and it's going to come out higher, I can say with some confidence that it's probably not. You're probably better off if you're straight driving traffic from a Google ad to a property search link. Keep it at the default because you're going to generate the most leads that way. All right. And in some cases, you might find that the quantity can depend on source. I have done a test or two where it comes in close. But just to be safe, you're driving paid traffic and you're just getting started and you're a beginner and you're not doing all this custom audience and stuff, stick with the default settings. And I have that as scenario number 1 because it is still the recommended situation for probably 80 to 90% of users. Scenario 2 is the delayed registration. And what will happen there is that it's possible that the lead quality will be increased. This is the thinking if people are able to see more listings before becoming a lead. So they're getting comfortable with your site. They're like, hey, I like this. I like that it shows, this piece of data down below every property. This is cool. I like using this site. And then when they register, they're a little more educated, and then the quality might be a little more better. So you might get less leads that way, but the people who are opting in have already kind of tasted you know, tasted the thing, and you know that they're doing it because they've kicked the tires, okay, as opposed to just maybe giving you a fake email address when they see the pop-up right away, or not really knowing, and then they give the address and then they see the site and it's not really their cup of tea, and then you wonder why they don't get back to you there. So that's scenario 2. But in scenario 3 is the one that I'm going to spend most of the rest of this webinar on because it's the fun stuff, and that is registration completely off. And a few things you'll want to be aware of if you do decide to go this route. It's kind of like a use at your own risk kind of thing. But property views are not tracked if the user isn't logged in. All right, so that's one thing. If they're never asked to log in, it's never going to tell you that they're viewing specific properties. So if you send that link to a friend and they start browsing around, you're not going to see that in their feed. One caveat there is that if you are already sending them alerts from the system, when they click those alert links, I'm pretty sure, right, they get logged in and tracked that way. So you could take a referral of yours, a friend, a relative, manually enter them in the system, get their consent to send listings. You do it all behind the scenes, and then it will track the listings if they're clicking and the alerts link and coming in. Okay, we got a good question here. I'll answer that now. Can you adjust the registration based on the audience? For example, from a Google ad versus Facebook versus a lead source that you already have. So Josu, I hope I'm saying that right. The answer is to use the squeeze links for specific sources. So you can build links one at a time for specific sources by going to the lead engine section here in the dashboard. And that's how you would do that. So yeah, and it gives you total flexibility. See where it says IDX squeeze page right here? That's where you'll find the ability to do that. Okay, and then scenario 3, with registration completely off, you can build better custom audiences in Facebook, then send retargeted traffic to squeeze links that have required registration on them, as I was just saying. So I figured what I do here is just kind of show you what this looks like, but overall we do have a course in the learning portal about retargeting and how to set up a retargeting funnel, but I think it might help if I go into the Facebook dashboard and just show you what I mean by building these audiences if you have registration open. Okay, so just give me a minute to jump in there. I had all my other links open but forgot to do this one, so let's do this. And just a warning, sometimes when I open up Facebook Ads Manager and I'm on GoToWebinar, the audio can kind of go out and the performance of the GoToWebinar can degrade. So if that happens, apologies in advance. It'll come right back once I get Ads Manager here. So what I do is I go to the top left of my Ads Manager, and go to All Tools, and I'm going to go to Audiences. And what this assumes is that you have the Facebook Pixel installed. I walk you through that in that course in the learning portal about doing a basic retargeting campaign. So how this works is that you have the Facebook Pixel installed, and then you could start to build audiences based on the data that the Facebook Pixel is collecting. So if I want to go here and I click Create Audience, I'm going to click Custom Audience. Give me a second. Facebook's being touchy. There we go. All right. There it goes. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my source here, website traffic. And then it'll be attached to your pixel. And right here, we're going to see some options where we can pixel all website visitors, people who visit specific web pages, and visitors by time spent. So these two are the ones I want to mention. Let's start with visitors by time spent. So let's say you leave your website, your registration totally off, right? And you start to build this audience, and you're only going to target, you're only going to add people who are the top 5% of people in the past 30 days. So these are the people who are browsing the most properties on your site. You can build an audience that's top 5% visitors. And it stands to reason that those top 5%, maybe you would make it 10%, those are the people who are probably most likely in the market to buy or sell sometime soon, right? So you can build that audience here. I'll create the audience. And then you can go, when you create the ads, you can go back later and create ads that target those specific people only. So let's say you have a strategy where you're doing group posting, for example. It's not my favorite strategy, or you're posting socially or a personal profile. My preferred method, it's a little more organic. And you're getting people coming to your site, you have different traffic sources, but then you want to spend some money on Facebook ads. Well, if you have registration open, you can now know that when you create a Facebook ad that targets those top 5% of the visitors, that you're getting a very targeted audience that you have a good chance of converting to a lead. The other option, of course, here with website traffic would be to target people who visit specific pages. So you might leave your registration totally open and give people time to cruise around the site and say, hey, whoever reaches a URL that contains recruit.php, maybe they are another realtor or somebody who's interested in a job or becoming an agent. So you might build a recruiting audience that way. Or if they visit finance.php, which is one of the URLs on your site, it'll have finance in it. Maybe they're looking for financing, and then you can start to show them financing ads, and so on. You can go through tons of possibilities, you know, if they visit a custom page that you've built or whatever. But all this starts with the assumption that because you've left registration open, you can get more people getting pixeled and added to these audiences right there. Does that make sense to everybody? I know it might be a little abstract if you've never done this sort of thing, which is why I kind of did the disclaimer in the beginning. But you know, it is possible to leave registration open and start building lots of very targeted audiences that you can then show targeted ads to, instead of just popping a pop-up to everybody and just hoping that they register for the site, which will deter the lion's share of your traffic, you know, 90 to 95% of it. And the other thing I should mention with this with registration being off is that when you do get a lead, I didn't have this in here, but if somebody goes ahead and they register, right? If they have time to search all the properties on your site and they do register, they have high intent, and you're going to see a higher number of people requesting direct property showings, meaning the lead quality will be higher. Question from Susan, is that custom audience dynamic? In other words, will the audience constantly update with new leads? Absolutely. That's the beauty of it. So the ones I was just building, I had it as a 30-day. So it was basically the top 5% of everybody in the last 30 days. Facebook just knows. I could have set that to the last 90 days, or the last, I think the max is 180 maybe, right here. And it'll always know whoever visited that specific URL, or whoever spent the most time in the past 180 days. So you have a fresh list. If they're not spending as much time on your site anymore and they go stale, then they would drop off. They wouldn't be included and see those ads. Or if they visited, say, your recruiting page 6 months ago, they would drop off and stop seeing the ads, you know, and you can set those durations to be whatever you want right here. So good question, yeah. So think of it, it's kind of, you know, these custom audiences become like pre-lead lists, right? They're not, you don't have contact info, but they're still kind of in your fold to some degree. This is where marketing is going. It's all data driven. So you have these little pots of data that you can then start to tap and target. And this is part of the reason why, you know, with Facebook changing and requiring that real estate agents can't target narrowly, right? We can't target by zip code, by gender, by specific zip codes even, right? Or by specific interests. But what we can do is start to build these audiences based on the data we're generating in other ways. Okay, go back here. Okay, so that bullet point that I just went through, that was about the building of custom audiences. You know, we could kind of we have done full webinars on that. If you go to the webinars page and you go into traffic and conversion strategies, we have lots of content in the learning portal and on YouTube about that. But just wanted you guys to have kind of a broad view of what that might look like. The next thing I'd like to do is talk about creating lead capture elements with third-party tools and then zapping them into kvCORE. And basically what I'm talking about, I'm going to bring up a kind of an ugly demo I threw together this morning. I didn't spend a lot of time on this, but I have two very obnoxious pop-ups going on here. And let me refresh this page. You'll kind of see what it looks like. So I come to the site. It's going to take a second. And I think I have both of these set for a delay. All right, so they're set for, I think it's 5 or 10 seconds. And of course, because I'm live, they're just not going to show because that's the way things always happen. Let me see here. Sorry, guys, bear with me. They were there a second ago. I wanted to refresh so I could show the pop-up behavior. There we go. All right, it happened over here on my other monitor. Okay, so this ribbon over on the right is, you guys have seen this. This is a pop-up. It came up on the right side of the page. But basically what you can do is you can start to make more niche focused offers, and you can put different offers on specific pages of your site. So if somebody is browsing maybe a blog post you did about buying a fixer-upper, you could pop what I have on the right or make this your global. So I used a service called Popped-in. I have a link there in the document to create this, and I installed the script in my kvCORE site. And what's going on is now as people browse, right, they're not being asked to register by kvCORE, but I can start to generate more targeted leads around specific offers here. I can let people see a video of me and give me their information here, and then I can take these leads and use Zapier.com and push them into kvCORE automatically right there. So that popped in just to, and I like this one. I was Googling around this morning. I like this one because it was one that gave on their homepage a bunch of different examples of types of popped in. So whether or not you use this popped-in product, just to give you an idea of the types of things you can do, I like this graphic where you can see you have these popovers, you can do ribbons at the bottom, you can do the side thing that I'm doing, and so on. You do popovers, you can do exit intent as well. When people try to leave the site, it pops up. So again, there's going to be a little bit of work. This is a little more advanced. There's a little bit of an art to creating this stuff, but we know based on all the feature requests we had that there was high demand from people who are a little more advanced who want to be able to have the flexibility to do this. And this is just one of the tools you might use to do that. Another tool that you might use, and I had it popping up, would be ManyChat, right? ManyChat is Facebook Messenger bots. Let me just get my window back up here. So ManyChat basically lets you build little bots that talk to people in Facebook Messenger. And you're able to install a ManyChat script the same way. And in this case, you can see the ribbon I have up top here, get a detailed 25+ page report. And if somebody clicks send to me, what it'll do is it'll just kind of ask them for their address in Facebook Messenger. And a lot of you guys may have seen that as well. And you can see I actually clicked it, and there's me talking to myself down at the bottom right. You can see the message came right away. So that's another thing you can do where you let people search on your site, and then you have these messenger-based offers that they can then engage with, where if you had registration required, they'd never get to the point of seeing this 8 times as they browse through different properties and finally clicking on it. Question from Jose. So your pop-up mentions underpriced properties. Are these hip pockets? Where are you getting these from? This is the actual work. People ask me this question all the time. Generally, these are just going to be things that I think are underpriced. This is the content creation part, and this is the difference, I think, between people who have massive success with online lead gen and people who don't. And that is the part where you actually, do the research every week and you manually curate information about the market. So when I say deals and fixers and foreclosures, these are literally 3 to 5 properties a week that I think are interesting, that that I mass email or mass text out to everybody in my database. And if you're looking for one thing you can do, I was just talking about this in the group, one thing you can do to boost your conversions, it would be that. Just, don't rely so much on the automation. Use the automation as a tool, but actually manually curate interesting real estate info and send it out. Okay, off my horse. So there's ManyChat was the second one right there. There is a couple others would be HelloSign, which is kind of similar to Popped-in. not hello sign, hello bar. Hello sign's a digital signature thing. Okay, hello bar. And again, similar to popped in. I liked. Yeah, they both work. Popped in seemed on the form building front to be a little more flexible when I saw it when I was going through it this morning. And then the last one that I'll mention today is this thing called Birdseed that Justin just showed me, which is kind of a messenger type chat that surveys people. And I thought this was really interesting. Now, I'm showing you these tools not to kind of overwhelm you and distract you. There are probably another 100 of these things out there. But just to make the point that with registration open, you now are open to this world of possibilities with these different widgets and tools for the collection of leads and the generation of conversations around real estate on your site. So here's Birdseed as well. I have not had time to play with this. Just with a quick look at it, I thought it looked pretty exciting with all the different widgets and things you can do. They have a meeting scheduler thing and things like that you can pop into your site. So does anybody have any other specific questions? I tend to move really fast. I understand that. I just wanted to kind of give you the overview of the new functionality, talk about some different reasons why you would or wouldn't use it with a few of those specific examples of what you might do. But I do think that if you invest some time in creating your own lead capture, maybe a video, use one of these messenger type bots, a Birdseed or a Popped In, and you really put some effort into that, that it could pay high dividends. One of the other awesome things I liked about Popped In is that they have A/B testing, so you can have two different versions of your registration offer showing up. Here we go, right here. So I could right over here, I can create a split test and then have all my traffic coming in, registration open. I got lots of visitors cruising properties, and I have these two different offers for ways that they can opt in and become a lead. Whichever one does better, I then put a new control against it and split test out until my lead conversion rate goes higher and higher and higher. So Susan is asking, good question, if we have a bot, then should we set registration to none? Well, Susan, I do know that you can override, I will say, not necessarily, you can override the setting at the bottom right, that the chat widget. I think you can turn that off currently. So if you have that there, it's not going to be in the way of the registration. So the bot's a specific example. Maybe you don't have to turn off registration. But I do think that maybe some of the other pop-ups I showed you might not flow as well with or without registration. It's really going to be a case by case, and you just give it some thought. Which pages do I want this to show on? Do I want to use kvCORE's registration, or do I want to leave it open so people see this or that? Pam's asking, where do we find the recordings and other videos you've done? Again, that's at insiderealestate.com/webinars. So insiderealestate.com. It's all on our YouTube channel, insiderealestate.com/webinars. These webinars tend to be a little all over the place, as I've said. I definitely will remind you guys that we have a great learning portal with a bunch of different courses, the Agent Success Plan. If you want a more structured, approach to learning where it's little 5-minute videos step by step, you're going to find that in there. Yep, Jose, so what'll probably happen here soon, so Jose's asking how do we get this specific content in the bit by bit. I'll probably, the feature is new with the open registration. I definitely think there's probably a course that I can make in the learning portal that drills deep into how to create these little pop-up widgets and things like that, how to do a mini chat, how to do those popped-ins and things like that. So I'll put that on the list of courses to create, but it's really not, there's not too much to it. Just once you know and are aware that kvCORE will let you integrate with these things, all the settings are on the website settings page in kvCORE. So any of these solutions that you use, they're generally going to say, hey, take this little piece of code and pop it on your website. And once you know that you can go in and do that, under Web and IDX, that'll get you most of the way there. In terms of specific examples of what's working and what's not working, I would definitely say, or if you have any questions about any of these in particular, you can always go to the Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/conversion, the Inside Real Estate Success Strategies group, and just say, hey guys, I'm working on XYZ, I have my registration off, what do you think? I'm designing this form. Do you think it'll convert? And there are lots of geeks in there, myself included, who would be very happy to give you feedback and specific guidance. But yeah, Jose, I do think this is worth making a little bit of a course or something, a little drill down on. So that's a good suggestion. Cool. So we're at about a half hour. Does anybody have anything else while you have me live that you'd like to learn about with kvCORE or see demoed? I have a little bit of time. If you don't have anything, I'll give you guys a few minutes to ask some questions. If you don't, I'll let you go and we'll pop the recording of this onto YouTube and in the groups here in the next few hours. Okay, not seeing any questions, so yeah, so I'm going to get going, guys. Definitely use the Facebook group if you have any questions or comments. We're always open to them. Also remind you that if you have any specific feature requests, we have beefed up the feature request options here at the bottom of the chat widget in kvCORE. Forgot to mention that today. You can suggest and vote on new features and also see what we're working on. Yep, so Jose, yep, that's it. We'll make sure we get the recording out. Jose, definitely check out the learning portal and feel free to go in the group and ask about the specific checklists and things you'd like. Jim, to retarget leads, what I'd like to do, it's a little bit of a meaty subject, and I'm not sure I have time to give you everything right now, but I have a bite-sized step-by-step course called Retargeting 101 in the learning portal that'll show you how to do retargeting on Facebook and on Google. And also, just so you guys know, our new Facebook ads version of our Facebook pay-per-click ads actually has retargeting built in if you want a push-button way to do that. But if you go into the learning portal and you go to Inside Real Estate Growth Strategies, there's a step-by-step on how to craft retargeting campaigns, and you know, I've gotten good feedback on it. So it's called Retargeting 101, and that'll get it going. Great. Okay, guys, have a great week, and we should be back next week. I think we're doing some stuff around scripting with Brian from our team. He's got PM. Again, bye-bye.